to keep it a buck, 100 if you ask me. I was trying to pay the bills just like last week. I was trying to sell a deal just like last week. Trying to run plays and run it up like the mathletes. Back again with another episode, man. This is a really, really special one. I'm thankful to make it to episode 10. Always shooting for 10 episodes each season, but who knows? We might maximize that and go even more. But at the same time, this is the finale for season 2, and I've been really collaborating with this individual for a really long time, since season 1. But now we've been able to kind of make it happen and have him on the platform. So I'm definitely appreciative. And with this episode is going to be titled Mind Over Matter, with a special guest. So I just kind of want to introduce him really quickly. He's a owner and founder of Dark Horse Management, and also GLU Athletics, the clothing line. Dark Horse Management, we'll talk a little bit more about, with it being a marketing agency. But my guy, Nate Graham, he's definitely on the platform. And again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Great intro. I don't know
sure.
if I could do better myself, to be honest with you.
Man, I appreciate you for being on the platform, man. And, with all the conversations we've been having, man, I'm definitely appreciative and thankful to, one, you watch my growth, but also me being able to watch your growth as well, just in different spaces within, talent marketing, working with athletes, and then also stepping into the clothing, the clothing space, in which, I really have a really big interest in, because I feel like, it's kind of relating to sports in a way, or football in a way of, like, you look good, you play good, so I'm going to have you talk a little bit more about, when we get there, about, where did that spark of going into, building out GLU Athletics look like, and who are you trying to target? But let me not ramble too much. I'm just happy for you to be on the platform, man.
Appreciate it.
And I guess, where I'll take, the conversation is just, a little bit of your background.
Yep.
I know that you're a Minnesota native, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about, where you're from, and then a little bit of your upbringing as well.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in the west side of the cities, in the metro area.
Yeah.
I went to Wayzata High School. I really grew up in the best family situation you really could. My dad is a business owner, so I kind of got to grow up sitting in the back of the car, hearing him talk to his employees, talk to people he works with, just listen and kind of learn from him in a way.
Yep.
I never really knew I was going to get into business, actually, until just 2 years ago. I was an education major, so I thought I was going to be a teacher, just because of the interpersonal kind of skill set that I was just blessed with. So I loved interacting with people, talking with people, and so I naturally kind of gravitated toward that service of education.
Yep.
And kind of as I grew, I realized, like, it doesn't just have to be education in a school sense. Like, you can educate the world through supporting people with marketing, or you can educate the world through putting out clothing and having a cool message.
Thanks.
So, that kind of message has always been something that means a lot to me, just being able to put something positive into the world.
Yep.
And that really comes from my family. My mom is super intelligent. I always say she's the smartest person I know. She's a super type A, so she's in the books, not necessarily the same kind of intelligence that I have, but it's cool. My parents are far different from me, but also very similar at the same time. So
Facts.
It's a very special
Facts.
relationship.
And one thing that you just mentioned, man, that I think that's really important, even with being around the youth, and then also looking up to other people who I aspire to be like, and just kind of add to my repertoire, or add to my game, is just that visual representation. Some of the things that you just said about, being like, you not knowing exactly, and this is kind of the perfect, way to kind of talk about perfecting progression, but a lot of us don't know our journey. When we're born, we don't know the next step of where we might be going, just because that next step might not be promised. You might have to pivot, you might have to figure things out, and you might be going a different route. But one of the things that you just mentioned was, you being in the car and then kind of listening to your dad talk about business or talk with clients, and in a sense, that is, building something in you, something that you might not know at the time because you're so young.
Yeah.
But as you're growing up and going through high school or going through college, those are things that you're going to remember about being around your mom, being around your dad, because it was visual representation, but you're also creating your own identity through whatever business or through whatever sports or whatever that you're doing.
For sure.
So that definitely makes sense. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about one thing that I always want to talk about with my audience too is just the connection history that I have with my guests. So a lot of people that I have on, some people might be knowing me from, my Michigan background. Some people might be only knowing me from, Minnesota, or, I've been to so many different places: Minnesota, Michigan, Kentucky, Kansas. I got a little journey myself, but I always like to kind of give my audience a little bit of a, background of how we connected. And I was trying to think about that even on my way here, but I know it was primarily through our mutual connections through Dark Horse Management. And I know, I had Joseph Davis, Two Quick Productions, on my platform, and that was somebody who you was working with as well. But I just wanted you to talk about, one, the importance of, I guess, the importance of connections, and then just us kind of connecting through Dark Horse Management, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, later in the conversation. But I just kind of wanted you to talk about the importance of connections and essentially why is it so important, especially being in the marketing realm as well.
Yeah, that's everything, to be honest, to me. Like I can start out by saying, like, I'm nothing without the people around me. So whether it's my guy Jet, who's over there, or if it's Quincy Woods, Coach Q, kind of giving me the confidence even to step out and really be myself, or Joe Davis doing his stuff with the camera to kind of put stuff into light. Connections are really everything, and I really think connections build confidence. So if somebody can connect with people that they personally look up to or admire or they align with, there's going to be a sense of confidence because you're like, I'm with them. I'm like them. And so I've always been, kind of motivated to build connections with people, not in a way where I'm trying to benefit necessarily, but in a sense that it's like, I know who they are and I can tell where they want to be, and I want to be there too. So, marketing is really just a connections game too. At the end of the day, it's a networking deal. If you can, thinking back to when we first connected in the very beginning, getting on Google Meets and talking about possible collaborations, I really admired you because you were like, I don't want to rush this game. And that's something that I kind of personally at the time was doing because I wanted to be relevant. And so looking back at that, it's, you're 19, 18 years old, and you're kind of pushing the envelope of where you want to be. But now that I've got a couple years in the game, it's really just about being genuine. We talk about that all the time, just in our text. It's trying to figure out what I really, and you really push me in that way too, to be honest, like with our conversation, because it's thinking about why I want to act this way and why I want to do what I want to do. Because my dad's a connection, you're a connection, Q's a connection, and having the humility to say, like, without them, I'm not here right now. So it's important to kind of remember those things.
Facts, man. You dropping jewels right in the beginning. I'm loving it. And I think it's a lot of it has to do with just moving with purpose as well. So in some of the things that you're talking about that I think about is the quality versus quantity as well. The day and age that we're in currently right now, you can get on your phone, you can get on social media, you can just see people doing certain things that's making you feel like either, why am I not doing what they're doing, or how do I get this overnight? How do I get it super fast? Because you can get it super fast within this day and age, but you still have to prioritize the quality of whatever you're doing, whether you're podcasting, whether it's your day-to-day job, whether it's your whatever it is. I think that's one thing that me and you have had, intentional conversations about when it has come to just taking your time, but also laying the foundation of whatever it may be, because the foundation of that is going to be super important as you build connections, within that realm as well. So that is very important. I'm glad that you brought that up. And then also what I wanted to talk a little bit about as well. I know you talked about your dad and your mom and coming from, a solid family background, but I wanted to have you talk about the family support system and why is it so important. And maybe you talked about it a little bit already, but I wanted you to kind of tell the audience of why having that backbone is super important and how has it pushed you to kind of continue to go.
For sure. The first thing that comes to mind is my dad is going through a battle with cancer. So stage 4 cancer. He's doing great now. But he's a fighter. And so when I'm a 18-year-old freshman in college and my dad calls me and says, hey, we have no idea what's going to happen, but I have cancer and I'm going to have to fight this, and it's gonna be a process. And so I had to go into kind of a dark spot and think about, shit, do I go home? What do I do? And then my dad was like, you just need to be the best you can be at this time. don't think about the fact that I'm home or whatever. Just think about how you can be as great as you can where your feet are.
Talk about it.
And so that's kind of been the whole process. That's why this episode and this next launch is called Mind Over Matter, because that's been his motto kind of through this whole thing. You know, I got it tattooed on me. Like it's super important, because I really think, you know, like your situation is subjective to your outlook.
Oh, yes.
So if you look at stuff and you're like, man, I'm stuck, I can't do anything, then that's your reality. But if you're like, man, this sucks, but if I can do anything to make my situation better, then go ahead and do it, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing you can control.
Thanks. Hey, man, I just want to say prayers to Pops, man. Hopefully,
Yeah,
you know, he stays strong. You know, he definitely has a strong, you know, support system with you. And do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger sister, Montana State. Shout out the Bobcats.
For sure. And again, just having that family support and that family, you know, strength, you know, being in specific scenarios that might make an individual weak is still the mind over matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what we're getting at. And I appreciate you talking about that. And I think, you know, where I wanted to go a little bit. So I know you talked a little bit about, you know, just, you know, the professional career aspirations, not knowing exactly what you wanted to do at a young age, or, you know, you just kind of figured that out maybe not too long ago, even with being in college. But you also, what you mentioned as well, is just the transitional phases. So just kind of getting that information from your dad, like it's gonna put you in a dark space, but it's also putting you in a mind shift of understanding that, you know, you can't be, what do I wanna say? You can't always be in one space. You're gonna have to go through a number of different things that's gonna help mold you, specifically when we talk about transitional phases. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about, you know, entering college. How did that look for you? Because I know you're currently a student, you know, right now at Moorhead, correct?
Yep.
And I wanted you to talk a little bit about, you know, once you left high school, going into college, what did your thoughts look like when it came to, I don't know, being a student athlete, and then also kind of, you know, handling the pressures of what comes with that, you know? So that's kind of where I wanted to start off with talking about those transitional phases.
For sure. You know, I'm going to start out with something pretty vulnerable here. Is I played Division II college football, but I never started a game in high school. Not one game. So I started playing football my sophomore year. Same situation. Joined a sport super late.
Yep.
I'm athletically gifted. I'm a big body, but I did not know one singular thing about football outside of the fact that my dad was a center in college.
Yep.
And I'm obviously, if you look at me, not going to play offensive line. So I joined football. My best friends kind of brought me in. Julian Dietrich, he played for the Hitmen. He's an alum from them.
Okay.
Ryan Harvey kind of brought me in too. He played quarterback at Augsburg.
Yep.
But you know, I joined and I found Q. So he was working at a different sports training location in the cities.
Yep.
And just based off of his mindset, and I really think Q shaped me in a lot of ways. He's like a big brother to me.
Shout out Coach Q, man.
Yeah, shout out Coach Q for sure. He's one of the best guys I've ever met. But he had me believe and truly believe with the confidence of our training and just pure work ethic and determination that I was going to go to the NFL.
Yep.
That was fully ingrained into my mind. And I think that really is why I act the way I do. Because, you know, to me, like, life is such a short period of time. And if you're not really chasing where you want to be, then, like, what's the point? You might as well chase your dreams. So that was my dream at the time. So I told everyone that I loved, you know, I've had a supportive girlfriend for 3 years. I'm super lucky in that way. And she had to hear me say, I'm going to the league. She's like, Nate, you played 15 snaps in a varsity football game in Minnesota last Friday. What are you talking about? But she just kept her mouth shut, and she just was like, okay, you got it. And Q just instilled that in me. So I went to college thinking, you know, I played wide receiver in high school, primarily blocking. I didn't really get the ball ever. And I went to college to play D-end. So I was a 195-pound, soaking wet, 6'5" kid, and I was going to play D-end. And for lack of better words, I got my ass handed to me my freshman year bad. I was getting pummeled in practice, whatever. But that belief in myself never changed.
Exactly.
Until the moment I stopped playing, you know, that was really my goal. And as I started to grow, I started to realize, you know, hey, maybe my skill set isn't that. And so, you know, I don't think that anybody's dreams could not be achieved. I think they can just be changed. So if you have a dream of going to play a pro sport any age, do that, chase it. But that's probably going to set you up to chase your final dream. If that's not truly what you end up doing, with more success in the future.
Facts.
So that's kind of always been me, like a transitional phase too, from going from being an education major to a business major. That was recent. So just trying to learn a lot of stuff, kind of catching up. I've had a good advisor at Moorhead, which has been super helpful too. So just that kind of stuff, I feel like confidence really just puts you in a position to be successful.
Facts. And it's a lot of things that you said, man, that I definitely want to tackle. And first, I mean, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, I feel like, man, like we've had multiple conversations, but you special, bro.
Appreciate you.
You gotta keep going. You gotta keep stepping. You gotta keep laying the foundation. And with me saying that is that it's the mentor piece as well. That's why it's so important about visual representation, of looking up to people, and then also having people instill things into you that you might not see at that time.
For sure.
Like your dream was to get to the NFL. My dream was definitely to get to the NFL, but it's gonna be certain things that's gonna be instilled into you, that's gonna spread throughout a number of different things that you're gonna flourish in. So that's why that is important. And also I wanted to, where I want to go now is just talking a little bit about. So you talked a little bit about the challenges, a little bit about it. You talked a little bit about the challenges and roadblocks that you ran into. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about being a student athlete, because this is one thing that I want you to be, a little bit vulnerable about as well. Being a student athlete, as we all know, whether you get to the NFL, whether you don't, there's going to be a period of time where you have to put the basketball, football, whatever it is, baseball down, and you have to pivot. I wanted you to talk a little bit about some of the things that you ran into with playing football, and then also making sure that that didn't pivot you, or not didn't pivot you, but they didn't pigeonhole you to feel like you couldn't what do I want to say? Just thrive in other areas, and I see it every day. We have calls. There are certain things that I see in you that it doesn't make me feel like, oh, you need to be the top of the game for me to work with you.
Yeah.
No, I can see. It's just like working with kids with me. It's like I can see a lot of different things when it comes to talent. That's what it is. It's the talent marketing. I see certain stuff within you, but at the same time, you gotta want it. That's one. But at the same time, you gotta build connections. That's two. And then at the same time, you gotta be consistent.
Yep.
I see that within you. So I just wanted you to talk a little bit about that challenge and roadblock, how that got you, propelling into, diving into, what we're going to talk a little bit about with Dark Horse and GLU.
Yeah, for sure. When it came to kind of the end of my athletic career, it really wasn't necessarily a choice. I think, whether it was God, the universe, or whatever, but I ended up having a really, really bad concussion. And so that kind of put me in a position where I had to make a decision that was like, the athletic trainers were like, you could continue to play, but you've had some concussions and you have some pretty bad reactions to what's going on. And honestly too, there's another shout out to my mom. She's a scientist. So when she sees that I have a concussion and I can't look at a screen for 2 weeks, she's saying, there could be some trauma in your brain. Don't mess with that. Move on. And so I think that kind of gave me the confidence to be like, I'm not defined as an athlete. My mother obviously loves me more than anybody in the world could. And she's going to continue to make the best suggestions that she knows how to do. Fact. And so I think sometimes it's just all about trusting people that may be smarter than you at that time.
Of course.
Like obviously at that, I was like, I don't want to leave my friends, whatever. But my friends have been around. They're sticking around. They want to be a part of GLU. They want to be a part of Dark Horse. They want to be just my friend in general too. And so it's been a true blessing to just be able to step away from the game, which was obviously a challenge at times too. And I think part of it, looking back too, is the ability to manage the time was a challenge for me. I definitely in the beginning stages of business was trying, like I said, trying to be relevant. And sometimes when you're trying to be relevant, you try to make promises that you don't know you can or cannot keep. And those are I had to eat my words at times. And I think too, like sometimes people are so afraid to mess up, and it's like people are gonna hate you if you make one mistake, and that's not the truth. Good people are gonna be like, hey, you screwed up here, but like let's work together to fix it. Let's develop you as a person. We're like, if you're a young person or anybody, you can grow. So just having the humility to be like, hey man, like I'm so sorry, or hey, I messed up here. This is my mistake. I shouldn't have said this. And and I need to eat that. And whatever you want to do to move on best and be the most effective for you, I'm down for it. Let's try to work this out. And that's just kind of been my mindset. Like, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. If you make a mistake, own it and try to move on. And if someone's having a hard time forgiving you, give them space and time. They'll come around if they're the right person for you.
Facts, you talking, man. And that's, again, that's the platform, perfecting progression.
For sure.
Nobody in this world is perfect, but, you know, there's a lot of people in this world who have, you know, took losses, but they've found ways to perfect the progression, the next step, you know, taking the next step. So I do think you know, talking about your story, man, this is you know, this is what this platform is for, just to kind of go over people's journeys, whether it's to entrepreneurship, but also with, you know, taking those steps towards entrepreneurship. There's going to be ups and downs. For sure. You know, a lot of us, we can get on our phone and just see the glitz and glamour, but there's a number of different things that happen behind closed doors, that you have to be, you have to, you know, channel in on being the boss, on being the boss in other areas, you know, because some of those things can definitely, you know, derail a journey, you know, if you don't have the mind over matter, you know, in place of what we're going to go into right now. So, you know, so I'm loving that you talked a little bit about the challenges and the roadblocks, man. That was very, very important for you to kind of talk about, because that's exactly where I was going to go. But now, within your journey, you know, where we're at right now, just kind of, you know, being in a space to take charge, you know, identifying or just, you know, being in the space of self-identity. You kind of talked about, you know, your journey through sports, and now you're kind of redefining outside of sports. So I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about that. Was that a tough transition for you? Was it an easy transition? Because again, I think some of the things that I think about when I talk about taking charge and the self-identity of myself, you know, there's many people who fall into my lane. We've played football for so many years, you know, or sports for so many years. And it's hard for us to figure out what we're going to do next, just because we want to stay so close to sports. We want to have a job in sports, but we just want to do that because we don't know I don't want to say we don't know anything else. Of course, we can apply ourselves to other things, but it's essentially that visual representation. If I'm not around people who are in sales, who are in marketing, who's giving me the day-to-day ins and outs, I just want to stay to sports. You know, that's what I want to do. But at the same time, you know, you do have a few people who are willing to branch out and just learn on their own. And then that's what, you know, that's what puts people in the place of saying, oh, damn, like, I want to do what he's doing. Just like what you was talking about earlier. Like, I want to do what he's doing. Or, you know, like with the guys who are working at One Goal, like, you know, this is stuff that's opening my eyes to different things that I never knew about. Even with connecting with you, even with you being younger. It doesn't matter the age. It's just being open. It's being open to different things. And one of the things that I want to talk to you about as well is just the authenticity of just being truly you. Of course, people want to be your friend, but you're going to be able to weed out very quickly of who's really with you or who's really fake. You know, of course, you want to be around because I'm popping right now, or you know, you just see the things that come from it. But you will be able to understand, you know, I want to help you because you're an authentic person. We've been talking for we've been talking for almost about 2 years now, and it's never been a come on a podcast. Like it really just came up like maybe a few months ago. And it's like, no, I think you should be on a podcast because it makes sense. And that's an authentic relationship because I want to help you. And that's how that does go. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about just redefining outside of sports and your self-identity. How did that look for you? Was that transition easy? Was it hard? I think that'll be, you know, important for people that tap into perfecting progression, because I think people channel in with that every single day.
Yeah, for sure. You know, something that just kind of randomly came to mind when we were talking about that is the fact, like I was never the best athlete on my team. And I think that really puts me in a position where I'm more comfortable to not be the most successful businessman in the room. And so I can be okay learning from a mentor, like you kind of alluded to before. And so that transition period for me, from going from, you know, whether I'm a college athlete and I'm hanging out with younger athletes, like in a training space or whatever, okay, maybe you're looked at as a talented athlete, but I was never identified as super elite. And so for me, the transition to being like, okay, I'm a college athlete, but I'm relatively unknown. And I almost feel like my confidence has grown since not being an athlete, because I've been able to find that my skill set is honestly better equipped to do things like this.
Yeah.
And so the transition, honestly, for me, I've been lucky, has been relatively easy. Not in the sense of the structure and things, and I think we can get into that a little bit too, but finding ways to better yourself outside of being in a team structure has been something that has honestly changed my life. I'm not overly academic person. I love to be social. I have ADHD, so I like to wiggle around, do whatever. I like to be super social, but like we kind of talked about before on getting on the podcast even was I've really got into reading. And that for me has been something that has changed everything.
Why?
Because, and I'll go back to something my dad told me too, is I started reading this book called Atomic Habits. And it's widely known. I'm not gonna be able to reference anything word for word from the book, but I spent time and I actually annotated the book, took notes on the whole thing, and really got into it and read and really read it. And after I read it, I was super accomplished, and I walked up to my dad and I said, I finished this book, I feel great. And he said, I'm proud of you, but 99% of people read a book like this and change nothing. How are you gonna change?
Yeah, comprehension.
Yeah. And really like application too. And so just using that skill set of, every little thing you do in a day is an opportunity to be better. Whether it's you see a piece of trash on the ground and you walk past it or pick it up, that's an opportunity to grow. And so having a mindset where it's like, you're not going to win every battle. And it's impossible to hold yourself to a standard of perfection.
Facts.
So it's the progression piece, right? Like it's getting to a point where everything that I do, I try to have the mindset of being, is this decision that I'm going to make going to benefit me, or is it going to put me back? And I make decisions all the time that probably put me back. Not probably, they do. But at the end of the day too, I know that I'm winning more than I'm losing. And also another just random component of the book that sticks with me is everything over zero compounds. So if you do more good, if you do one good thing, and it's the example they use in the book is going to the gym. You're not going to wake up every day thinking I'm going to have the best workout of my life. But going to the gym and doing a shitty job in the gym is better than not going to the gym at all. So trying to make sure that even if I'm not in a place to do my absolute best, doing the best that I can in that very moment has been something that has changed me. I just finished a book called Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett.
You were telling about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to just kind of get into, and it's honestly philosophy. It's called self-help now in 2025, but it's really philosophy. So learning how to utilize your brain and make it your superpower and just be consistent. Rome wasn't built overnight, so your brain isn't going to be perfect overnight either, but if you know that you can improve, you're going to be in a really great spot.
Facts. Everything over zero compounds. I like that. Is that pretty much saying if you do nothing, you're not benefiting? I like that. I like that shit. That's everything over zero compounds. That definitely is meaningful.
For sure. No, that was my reaction when I heard it the first time too. I just had to sit back and be like, dang.
I like that one. I like that one for sure. And now, going into just, the way I got it structured is just starting the process now. So now you're thinking, like an entrepreneur, or you want to go into entrepreneurship. So kind of let me know, how did that journey begin into Dark Horse Management? Pretty much, how did that start?
To be honest with you, it really started in I tore my labrum, so I was walking around with the big balloon sling on my arm, and I really wasn't supposed to drive, but I just couldn't stay in the house that long. So I bought some microphones. I told everyone I got them on Amazon. I really got them off of like Temu or something, for like 25 cents. And I would walk to the field where football training was going on, and I would just record random athletes. I'd ask, hey, can I mic you up and just record you? And so it started like that. I was using CapCut. I had no idea what I was doing media-wise. I'm sure if One Goal Media saw the stuff I was putting out, they would laugh at me. But another thing from them books is you can't be afraid to start. No one's perfect. So if you start, and so that's how I started. And then all of a sudden, I was with Q most of the time at first. Then I went over and I started filming some stuff at TJ Sessions. And then from there, I already knew Trav from just previous getting recovery in high school. So we started to sign some athletes, got into that, and then kind of as things went on, people got in contact with X Hydration. I realized that my media game needed to step up, so I connected with Joe, Two Quick Productions, and he's been, his contributions to Dark Horse I cannot undermine at all. His media, as you know, having quality content is a game changer for any kind of output, and so he really put a lot of time and effort into that as well. So we kind of have been collaborating on that a little bit for a while now, and so yeah, that's how it started. And then NIL kind of took that pivot, and we kind of have talked about that in the past too, with the collectives kind of becoming a thing. So money wasn't necessarily a marketing tool for college athletes as much. It still happens. So if you're a college athlete, go and try to be marketable for sure. But it definitely changed, and I realized that I was trying to get people to buy 7-on-7 jerseys from a brand. I was trying to get people to buy a different product from a different brand. And I was like, man, why can't I just make my own stuff? And so I learned a little bit about manufacturing, and I really just was like, screw it, I'm gonna put my money into it, see what happens. It was definitely not a perfect road, but then I realized and it's funny because it all does tie back to my youth. But I was up at my cabin, and my mom had these rocks on our little mantle, and the rocks were painted. And I hadn't really looked at them like that before. And I grabbed one down, and when I was like 5 years old, I was drawing the logos of my favorite brands on rocks. And I would keep them and collect them. And I'd paint it, and I'd make it look perfect, and I'd put it there, and I'd present it to everyone that walked into our cabin. And so I realized, my outlet, my creative outlet has always been design. I had kind of worked around it, and I learned the marketing skills first, and now I get to do what I'm passionate about every day, which is just draw and design clothing and learn that process. And so it's been honestly such a blessing, just because I get to tap into the creative, then the connection side can follow with Dark Horse or GLU. And then, continue to just grow as a person and an entrepreneur.
My bad, and I ain't want to cut you off. Let me stop you before we go into GLU. I wanted you to talk a little bit about the importance. So with Dark Horse Management, we have different sectors like talent marketing. We have sponsorships. We have co-branding. Being in those, athletic spaces, it is going to be easy to build those type of connections. So I wanted you to talk about one. The talent marketing piece, educate people. What is talent marketing, and then also outside of just sports? Because now, the way I think now is very different from just being an athlete. You're in the clothing game, so of course you're trying to attack people who are, collegiate athletes, high school athletes, professionals. But outside of that, it's even more of a broad thinking. With talent marketing, who you connect with and who you can build from, who you can build on or who you can build from. Because a lot of the different things that I'm thinking about, a lot of that, a lot of the money is within those spaces. But also there's different ways to, market talent. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about talent marketing. How does it, how does sponsorships play into that, and then the co-branding. The co-branding is essentially what you talked about with Joe. Joe is really good with some of the things that he does, and you guys are co-branding. Talk a little bit about, the depth of the business from that perspective before we kind of go into GLU. Because that's exactly what you're going to say. You putting all your marbles in on design and GLU and doing that thing, doing that specifically, Dark Horse is already going to be following along with that because of the talent marketing and sponsorships, because you're building this up now. A lot of people might not understand that. I know I probably rambled a little bit, but I wanted you, as the expert, the subject matter expert, to talk a little bit about that.
For sure. So, talent marketing is really, it's an emerging field. It's something that has been around for a long time, but the general term to be able to just market whatever is something that I think, in my opinion, has kind of came from the social media marketing, which kind of laid the foundation. I mean, if you think about something like this, and it's funny, I just talked to a group of AAU players on Thursday about NIL and things like that. But the whole thing with talent marketing is agencies now, pro sports agencies, there's like two options. You can choose a traditional sports agency, or you can choose a talent marketing agency that will market you to clothing brands, market you to get endorsement deals, market you, and general sports marketing agencies have done that in the past. But these are agencies that don't only sign pro athletes. They could sign a model. They could sign a social media influencer. They could sign a podcast host. They could sign anyone. So if you look, a random example on the top of my head is Stephen A. Smith is signed to, I don't know the agency, but he's signed to an agency.
Yep.
And that same agency has people in the NBA, NFL, or wherever they're certified.
Yep.
And so those agencies are essentially kind of what I like to get into. I'm not necessarily going to go get certified to be an NFL contract negotiations rep.
Yep.
It's more about how can we make your impact off the field, off the court, off of whatever sport that you're a part of, larger.
Yep.
How could you, if you're a college athlete that doesn't end up going pro, how can you prolong your time in the light? How can you make your impact reach 10 years after you're not a college athlete? And people still know, hey, you played college football at Murray State or the University of Minnesota, but we also know you because you're a podcast host. That's a great example, honestly, of somebody that was able to take their college athletics, utilize that as leverage, and pivot to do something post-graduation and grow.
Yep.
Talent marketing and management too, there's a whole lot of, and we've talked about this kind of behind closed doors, a lot of brands that may not align with you. And so having a management group that knows the importance of not pushing the product down the client's mouth. It's more like, hey, this is the opportunity. It's whatever is up to you that you want to kind of move with that.
Facts.
And co-branding, like you said, it's just utilizing your relationships and network. Co-branding could be, like you said with Joe. Co-branding could be
it's partnering. It's strategic partnering.
Oh,
and that's what I think, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
That's what these agencies that you're referring to, that Stephen A., it could be a PR agency, because that's one thing. I just had a conversation with my last guest, shout out Ayo. He was just kind of putting me up the game of just like, you definitely should be connecting with some different PR agencies, because what you're talking about now is different sectors that they might be specializing in. Whether it's, again, it's like, it could be podcasting, it could be, people who are designer heavy focused, but they know they have a clothing brand that athletes want to wear. So it could be a PR agency. You have me thinking about that a lot more now, but co-branding essentially is, again, I have a passion within networking, but I have a passion within building partnerships and nurturing those relationships.
For sure.
So I think that's the part of co-branding, brand engagement. That's essentially what that is. And then the last thing, that the sponsorships. The sponsorships just come with, if we want to invest into Nate Grimm and GLU Athletics, well, there's going to be a number of different other businesses that want to be a part of GLU Athletics as well. Well, let's get this stuff on GLU or whatever. So that's the sponsorship piece.
For sure.
And then the last thing I want to do to talk about, as we talk about taking charge and just, understanding your self-identity, is the team dynamics. Why is team dynamics so important, for an entrepreneur? Why is that important?
Kind of like I said before, like you're nothing without your team. And I think and I don't mean that in the sense of if you're right now at a point, because there was a point for me where I didn't have a team.
Exactly.
And you're by yourself. But scaling is finding the right people to work with.
The more you grow,
and
the bigger you have, I guess the more you have capacity, you're gonna see things like, oh, I could have a team for this.
Oh yeah. And it's so necessary because for example, like just today, I would have never been able to shoot behind the scenes content without having my guy Jet with me. I would have never been able to honestly, in the beginning, I would have never been able to design a product without having my guy Ryan. His girlfriend is a graphic designer. So I would have never had that ability, Kaylin. And so it's all about just, and this again is something I learned from my dad. It's the worst thing that can happen is they say no. And if they say no, that just means they don't want to do it. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything about you. It's a plain and simple situation. It's not personal. And so it's so important to just continue to try. Rejection is part of the game. I mean, you probably are going to get rejected more than you get said yes to, and that's just part of it. You got to have the confidence to know that that's not a personal attack. That's just part of the situation. And so there's growth in that too. Not every business relationship is going to work out. Not every partnership is going to be perfect. But having the confidence to, continue to lead your team and be a conscious leader, but also allow people to have the space to be themselves and grow within whatever their dream is. Yep. You don't want to tie people down, because when you tie people down, then they kind of start to resent you. So focusing on your growth, the growth of the business, but also their growth too, is super important.
Facts. And before we go into GLU, I wanted you to talk about, because I think we had text messages over. We might have talked a little bit about it over the phone, but atomic habits.
Yes.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about what does that mean to you. I mean, again, a lot of this platform is good conversation, but it's also giving game. It's giving education to people who are looking to, venture out in many different spaces. So I wanted you to talk about what does atomic habits mean to you, and why is that important as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's from like I said, like reading that book, but also just it's a daily choice, to be honest. Like nobody, especially like I'm gonna give a cool example. Yep. A lot of people, if my old high school classmates watch this video right now, they wouldn't recognize me.
Yep.
I'm a totally different person.
Exactly.
But that's because I chose to change.
Yep.
Because I was hiding behind playing this dumb personality, funny, kind of class clown, always in trouble, but I never applied myself, so I didn't even know my limit.
Yep.
Well, when you choose to change and you decide, hey, every single day I'm gonna choose to do things that are gonna make me better, you grow. Yep. I'm confident in who I am now, not because I have an ego or because I think I'm better than anybody, but because I put time into working on myself. And so, just the atomic habits is just part of that whole equation. You're not gonna read one book and change, like my pops kind of alluded to, but if you take time every day, if you meditate, I like to sit in the sauna and just no media, no phone, just sit there and just think about my life and how I want to be better. You got to take that time. Time is an investment, and it's the most valuable resource that we have. Yep. So if you don't take time and you can't unplug, we're so addicted to dopamine right now that scrolling on TikTok, like it's not good for your brain. Yep. So if you can consciously take time for yourself, and that could be an atomic habit. Hey, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not going to scroll on my phone for an hour. I'm going to choose to get up and read 10 pages of a book and go work out. That's a big change.
Facts.
And so if you can do that, and even if, like I said, your workout isn't 10 out of 10, it's a 4 out of 10. It's still over zero. You're compounding.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that one, bro. That's a real good one. And I think, again, this conversation is really motivating me. And I think, it really gives me the broad overview of just me being, essentially, I can call myself a podcaster now, but I never looked at myself as being a podcaster, but it's just certain trials and tribulations and you going through your journey of figuring out like, hey, I think this is something that I probably should bring to the forefront and something that I can capitalize on, but also with having those connections and relationships of me, talking with you, it was something that you never even, again, like we talked about just my platform, but it was something that you never thought about. But as we're having this conversation, you giving game. Like this is like good stuff that you're giving. That's also going to motivate other people, but also going to want to make them say, let me go check out Dark Horse. Let me go check out GLU. So it's really about, on this platform, of course, a lot of different podcasts can say this, but it truly is about capturing stories. Yeah. Capturing stories, but also at the same time, within capturing stories, it's a lot of power within many different sectors of what we're going to talk about. Networking, and within networking, that's another thing. Like relationships, I say this so much, even with work, but relationships truly is the root of everything. Yes. And it's just like, that's how you continue to have business go with great relationships. So, it's easier said than done. I mean, some people, need almost like a visual breakdown or a workshop of how does that look, because some people are siloed to just doing their only job and they don't want to be, dealing with anybody else. But when you talk about running a business or working for an organization, you got to have good relationships. Oh yeah. So that to me just puts me in the space of, when we had these type of conversations, like, you're an organization. You are a mastermind, but you're still putting those things in place day by day to kind of unlock that. For sure. So, and then So now, going into GLU Athletics, man. Shout out GLU, man. Nate
you.
has been doing a lot of great things with GLU. I have this hat on right here that's really, really dope. Turquoise. What is this? Turquoise and beige, maybe. What color is this?
Yes, sir. Beige. Yeah.
I definitely like the look of it. And yeah, man, I had to come with a nice little fit on. I wanted to come like Nate, but I mean, Nate is gonna talk about it. He has all the glue pieces on right now, top to bottom. But man, this is definitely dope for you to be on the podcast,
for sure.
man. I'm appreciative for you to come on and talk a little bit. Like you said, you talked a little bit about Dark Horse, but I wanted you to, definitely talk and bring, GLU to the forefront of some of the great things that you've been doing there. So before I ask you anything about GLU, I wanted you to talk a little bit about, how did this opportunity come about?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just kind of something that came to me through the passion of design. When you run a marketing agency, you're gonna collide with design at times from whether it's graphics, like graphic design for social media, or you're supporting somebody in their content. So you're doing stuff like making visuals for a brand, or you're helping coordinate a video. And so I started to realize that there's something really fun about creating something tangible. And like I said, as I started selling other brands things or trying to sell and support other brands, I realized man, it can't be that hard to make something. And hindsight's 2020. Maybe it is a little tough. But if you put time in, like we've talked about, kind of this whole deal, if you really like something, you can make it work. And so I would say it's a lot more of a challenge to scale a clothing brand than a marketing agency, especially at my age. I'm 21, so I have to figure out how to finance and fund a clothing brand. But when you get to do something that's truly your passion, you'll do whatever it takes. And so, this is the Mind Over Matter collection, the name of our podcast, and it's really, like I said, dedicated to my pops. His mindset, like I said, my mindset is fully a representation of the things that he's taught me and others too, but I like to look back and just feel the gratitude for my immediate family. And so his battle with cancer and just his mindset kind of throughout life has always been something I look up to. And so I wanted to be able to display that. This logo is actually his handwriting.
Really?
So
that's dope.
It's cool to be able to see his handwriting on a multitude of pieces. We're coming out with some workwear, hopefully in the fall. We're gonna do some cotton wear and stuff throughout the summer, so we'll get some t-shirts out and try to make things a little bit more accessible. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's something I truly love and care about, and it's really cool to see people recognize it. And it's not even, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it's not even necessarily a financial thing. It's like when you're out in the community and someone's like, hey, what is that? I know what that is. Or that's super cool. What does that mean? And you can say, hey, I designed this. This is something. Same situation if someone would be like, are you on that podcast or something? I gotta give
a quick story, because a lot of the recognition is what sets it apart. It's what really truly drives you. And I think a lot of people have been taking notice of my podcast and just things of how it's been super consistent in the authenticity that we have on here. So two stories. One quick story. One of my friends from back in Michigan called me and told me, man, the things you're doing with your podcast, man, is truly dope, but that's truly you. You're not being anybody else. Which, we're in this day and age, a lot of people can get on social media because they're looking for likes or they're looking for whatever it may be, because again, these different social platforms will pay you to do whatever it is to catch the eye of people. So again, I'm truly about being authentically me, but for my friend to call me and say, man, that's truly you. Everybody you connecting with, it's not, of course you change, you're probably a little bit more professional, but that's truly Dior. I know you. So that gives me drive. But then also with Cashman, Cashman, that's my guy. I play with him at the U. But, it was a interaction that we had. I stopped by his house or whatnot. And, I'm coming just to show love because one of my, Craig James, who was on this platform as well.
Shout out Craig, great guy.
Shout out Craig as well, shout out Cass. And, Craig just had to, during the time he had to go drop off his car, you know, and Cass was just open to kind of like having it be at his place. So we was just going to his place. As soon as I got out the car, like I'm showing love with her. He like, man, like you gotta have me on the pod.
That's so tough.
So like that type of stuff, of course, I'm being genuine with who I'm reaching out to and asking them to be on the pod. But if I have Cashman, who I'm not a guy who was gonna be like, please be on the pod. But at the same time, I would love for you to be on the pod. Yeah. So for him to say that, it's like we're gonna make it happen. Like just like I'm telling you, like like I want you to be on the pod. Like we might have to coordinate. We have to figure it out. But it's getting done.
Yeah.
It's
We're
getting
here.
done. Trust me. So yes, it's the recognition. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, for sure.
And I didn't know if you want to take it from there. But yes, I wanted to tell that specifically.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's honestly like the same situation. Even with one goal, like when we walked into the unit and he saw the GLU hood and he's like, hey, I know what that is. And to me, like that means everything, because you put a year of your time and up or down financially, whatever, that doesn't mean anything if you're not making an impact on the community. If people don't know, hey, that brand stands for something, that podcast is authentic and stands for something, then what's the point?
Exactly.
Because you can go make money doing 1,000 different things, and probably 1,000 different things that are gonna hit your checking account a little quicker. Yeah. But if it's not your passion, like, what's the point?
It's the integrity part.
Yeah.
And again, I think we all do it. We are looking for some type of income.
Yes.
Money is not a problem. Like we would love the money.
Yes.
But it's the integrity part of like it's a thin line between that, because I'm trying not to lose myself, which I'm not. But at the same time, this is still going to be a reputable platform for you to know that anybody that I network with, whether it's leaders or whether it's anybody that's coming up, like this is going to be an authentic conversation that we're going to have towards building the wealth that we're looking for.
100%.
And then what I wanted to talk about, or what I wanted you to talk about, so, you told me about, how this opportunity kind of came about. So let me know a little bit about the target audience of who you're attacking or trying to capture for GLU Athletics.
Yeah, I'll make a quick shout out, kind of a shot in the dark here, but I'm truly inspired by a Timberwolves player named Nikhil Alexander-Walker. I have done literally everything in my power to try to connect with this dude. But he's just an all-around great guy, and so his fashion sense in the inspiration kind of view of things is what really gave me the confidence to be like, yo, I know that this dude, he's always on the League Fits Instagram and stuff, is I can produce something that I know I like, because growing up, I'm trying to emulate whoever the top Timberwolf and Vikings players' style is. That's what I grew up kind of watching. And so he is super inspiring in the sense that he wears whatever he wants. And so he will wear stuff that is he wore capris one time. I'm like, man, what are you doing? But it's him. And so that's just been something, like, he's super inspirational to me. So my target audience is really us. It's the people that are in this room. It's people that are either inspired by something that means something and like authentic, or somebody that is into streetwear and wants something that's visually appealing and minimalistic. So the style is inspired. I have like a crew of guys that I look at and their style, and they have stylists, and they're super cool about the way they dress. And the target audience are people that are going to be looking into that crew of people, and also people that are authentic and want to represent something that truly means something, because you can't fake what we have going on today. That's real.
And another question I have for you, Nate, too, when we talk about target audience, is there any, as you're building out GLU, is there any what do I want to say, like storefronts that you might want to have your items in specifically? Because I think when you think about that type of stuff, of course, thinking about celebrities, thinking about athletes or whoever, them tagging what they're wearing, especially if they tag your clothing line more than once, that right there is just like, okay, let me figure out where this piece is from. So the next step is going to be, of course, we can go to the GLU website, but is this stuff that we can go into a store and go buy? So I wanted you to talk a little bit about that as well.
That whole like storefront base is a very, very competitive market. I want to give one more shout out to somebody that truly inspires me. His name's Justin Saul. He's a clothing designer. He owns the brand Elwood.
Elwood?
Elwood, yep. Elwood is a brand that's from LA. Justin is a guy who really kind of gave me the confidence to get onto social media and just start doing stuff like this.
Yep.
He has his own YouTube. He communicates super well, and he kind of inspires me with the mindset as well.
Yep.
But his storefront is Nordstrom.
Yep.
So I have not had any true business collaboration with Nordstrom, but a retail store that is nationwide and accessible is something I'm looking for. Obviously, every brand wants to be able to sell their stuff with a higher margin, but I don't want to be a brand that only the elite of elite can get their hands on. I want to be accessible. I want a kid to see Nikhil and whoever on the Wolves, or Justin Jefferson, or whoever, JJ McCarthy on the Vikings, wearing it walking into the stadium, but also be able to go somewhere and get it themselves and not have to pay $500 for a piece. Obviously, there could be situations to make something a little bit more exclusive, but I don't want our base products to be out of reach of people that just want to wear something that inspires others.
You know, I just want to throw this in there. One store that comes to mind is like PacSun.
Yes, for sure.
PacSun, I definitely see similar pieces of like what you're wearing right now, and PacSun, but like you have some dope pieces to the point of like it could be some collaboration going on there. Like I definitely get a few pieces from PacSun. Just,
for sure.
You know, whoever might be watching from PacSun.
Yeah.
You know, so
PacSun, hit them up. Come on.
But you know, one of the last things that I want to talk about. I know we talked a little bit about the collaboration spaces and things of that nature, but talk a little bit about you know, what are some drops, you know, in the horizon? I know you talked a little bit about what you currently have on right now, but what might be drops or anything that people should be on the lookout for when it comes to GLU?
Yeah, I'll say one of the main things that we just kind of got in our production process here is some T-shirts that are going to be coming in. The drop is going to be called Control Your Fate.
Yep.
And it's just really inspired by the fact that your outlook controls what your fate is, what your end destination is.
Yep.
My goal is I would really like to get some sunglasses out this summer because obviously
the shades is the way to go too.
I mean, crazy.
Everybody don't wear shades, but I love me some shades.
Oh,
man.
for sure. I really am inspired too by the bag space. So we have a duffel bag that we do have a sample of, and it is in production as well. That'll be kind of our big ticket item that we're trying to work towards. So something that we can market to like the pro athletes, college athletes a little bit more. And we're just going to continue to kind of go down the line of finding things that truly matter. Another drop that I hope to get going here, we got a design kind of in the works, is called The Best Is Yet to Come. So it's inspired by I journal every day, and I bought a journal in Italy, and it's a leather thing, and my girlfriend picked it up and was like, Nate, you would love this. And I read the title, and it said The Best Is Yet to Come. So just something, I try to be inspired by the little things, just try to design things based off of what I'm seeing in real life.
Facts.
So yeah, we got a lot of stuff on the horizon. Hopefully we get some more production in soon so we can get stuff going. But yeah, our website is kind of under construction right now. If people want to get notified, we have a SMS list up on there, so anybody could join on that. And then yeah, our social media is also where they'll see most of their stuff coming through.
Definitely appreciate you for being on the platform,
you.
man. This was a very, very solid episode, man, to end the season, man, with episode 10. And, you know, what other way to, you know, end it with the title being Mind Over Matter with Perfecting Progression, man. That,
for sure.
You know, I definitely, you know, appreciate the collaboration space that we have currently going on, and any future collaboration that we definitely will be having going on after this conversation. And again, man, you definitely, you know, all socials will be dropped to connect with Nate, with GLU, with Dark Horse Management on Instagram, and TikTok at all?
For sure, yep.
You know,
TikTok too.
Yeah, all social handles will be dropped. And again, man, this is a special one, man. Season finale. I think this is a really, really good conversation. And I'm glad to kind of get to 10 episodes again for season 2, and looking to kind of, you know, be even better for season 3. Season 3 is definitely going to be good as well. So now it just gives me time just to kind of, you know, sit back, reflect, and understand what gaps and what areas that, you know, the platform can definitely grow in. So,
for sure.
Again, thank you for being on. Shout out to One Goal Media always.
Yep.
The guys do a great job with this platform, and trying to make sure that, you know, this platform is amplified to its best ability as well. So, shout out to all of my guests who have been on the platform from episode 1 all the way up to episode 10. You guys are definitely, you know, one of the reasons why this platform is going the way it's going, and I look forward to just making even more collaborations, going forward. So closing out, man, make sure you guys tap into episode 10, Mind Over Matter with Nate Grimm. This is going to be a big one, and yeah, man, thank you for being on the pod, bro.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate the platform.
Signing out.